Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Number One Leading Ladies, a podcast by women for women where we focus on building each other up instead of tearing each other down. Today, we have a special guest, Ava Benesocky, and she's actually coming to us from Canada. I want to have her introduce herself because I just won't do it justice. Ava, go ahead.
Thank you so much, Kaylee. I'm so happy to be on here with you. Women empowerment is what I wanted to start off with. I'm Ava Benesocky. I'm CEO of CPI Capital, Canadian passive investing, if you will, across the border here in Canada. I manage a real estate investment firm where I partner with investors to deploy our capital from Canada across the border to the US, multifamily. There's so much opportunity on your side of the border, and that's a little bit about me.
Yeah, so let's dive in a little bit. There's a couple of questions that I normally ask on the podcast, and if we end up going kind of in another direction, that's cool too, just because it's more like having a phone conversation, nothing too formal. So, if we go in another direction, that's okay. One question I do like to ask, because obviously you've got experience with this, any business owner that starts their own thing, right? There's different stages of a startup, if you will. So I think in real estate, we get a little bit more velocity than some other industries and we get to go faster, but you're still going through the same steps. So for example, typically entrepreneurs or founders will go through a phase where they start a business because they have an idea and they have to, like me, put their first business on a credit card. They have to live with mom and dad. They have to make sacrifices to be able to get to the point where they get traction and they start seeing people either purchasing their services or participating, or, your numbers increase on whatever your clients are. What did it take for you to go from startup idea to traction?
That's really great. And I love talking about this because this is usually what stops people from diving into their startups. It's kind of chaotic when you first begin. I'm definitely a resilient person. So a little bit, maybe I'll take a step back and I'll kind of start off where I came from and then how I kind of got going with my startup. I was a real estate agent for over a decade here in Canada. And, everybody's taught, put your money in real estate. Put your money in real estate. Vancouver, if anybody knows the average house price in Vancouver, it's 1.2 million. So when you're telling people put your money in real estate, and then on top of that, you finally save up enough down payment, you put your money into real estate, and you want to kind of start building your portfolio. Now you have to make sure that you have cash in your pocket. Okay, so then it's negative cash flow. Imagine that. So you got to have your ducks in a row. Essentially, what eventually led me to get out of real estate, like literally leave my real estate career, something I love and been doing for so long, to start my company, which is in its startup stage, and go through this kind of chaotic process, which is lots of fun, was just having this complete, utter focus on helping people. And that's essentially where my startup kind of happened. And I've been living off my savings. August and I, we've kind of make a joke about this. This last year, since we've done our startup, we've made a total of $96. And it's gut-wrenching almost. And people like our parents are, what are you guys doing? Like, no, go get a second job, do this. Unfortunately, there's no time for a second job when you have a startup. You got to be full focus every day, 12 to 14 hours a day. And you're going to get rejected from people. You're going to, have ups and downs. But every day when you get up, you got to just not quit. You got to be resilient. And essentially going from being a realtor, having this career, and August as well, my business partner, fully left his job as well. Just be resilient and have things. And when one thing doesn't go right, literally just restructure and keep going. And eventually you'll build systems and eventually things will start working out. But because it's not going to work out the first try. You're going to have to keep, and I'm sure you know how that works.
Yeah, different type of business, but
yeah.
Business is business. There's still marketing, there's still advertising, there's still systems, there's still people, there's still taxes, there's still, all the same crap.
Yeah.
Business. So just try it out. And then you got to pivot, like you're saying, get smarter.
Yeah, you get smarter, you learn things as you go. But essentially, you know what, if you have a good product to show people and what you're doing is truly something, it will pay off. I always like to say this story, Chicken Soup for the Soul, that book. They got shut down 130 times. So they were resilient. Now they're like $1 billion company and they're, you know what I mean? So if what you're doing is great, just believe in yourself and that startup will come to fruition.
That's so true. I forgot what the gal's name was, but the woman who started It Cosmetics,
Okay.
she just sold it for $1.2 billion. And she was a waitress before. So of course, when you're looking at her story, it's like waitress to billionaire, and it's not like that. Like it took her 10 years, she got shut down. I don't remember how many times, but literally by all of the biggest cosmetic companies that exist, and anyway, so yeah, if you have something, people will see it. So don't give up.
Give up, yeah. And I just talking about a startup here on this side of the border in Canada. This startup that I've, multifamily in the U.S. Like that's my company. I pulled together Canadian capital and we deployed into the U.S. to purchase multifamily because the opportunity is just so much greater in the US. If you're going to buy the exact same asset here in Canada, you're going to be in negative cash flow for 4, 5, 6, 7 years. Cash flow doesn't exist. Okay. So coming to this point in my mind where I'm like, okay, I want Canadians to understand this concept, like conservative Canadians to understand what my business is doing, how we're doing it. I started an educational platform because it took my parents 20 times hitting them over and over again with my idea that I had, like saying, here's what I'm doing here, for them to really understand because they're very conservative. So the startup that I decided to get going, it still is very difficult, but every single day, what can I educate today? What can I educate today? And what I've noticed, because I started about a year ago and I started my thought leadership platform about 6 months ago, what I've noticed is if someone keeps seeing you and they keep, learning from you, then they finally understand. And that's where they get excited. That's where they want to jump on board.
That's 100% true. So it sounds like in the process so far, in the startup world, you have learned a few things, probably come up with a few principles, like I will always do it this way or never do it that way, or those kinds of things already. What would you say so far, and you can answer in any part of your life if you want to, what so far in life has been your biggest lesson?
My biggest lesson is just because, this is, how can I say this? Just because I'm showing up with something that I believe is the most incredible thing since sliced bread, it doesn't mean that everybody else is gonna, get on board right away. Things take time, and that's a great lesson that I learned is, hey, even if you're showing up with the best opportunity in the world, to sophisticated people and you're presenting it to them and nobody signs up, it's okay. It's going to take some time for them to learn what you're doing. And that's probably the advice that I can give. Don't get dismotivated because nobody signs up right away.
Right. Yeah, like you said, just keep believing in yourself. I don't know about you, but I have to put like these awesome affirmations on my mirror. I literally write it out in not Sharpie, but a whiteout pen or whatever, whiteboard pen. And because I got to repeat it to myself every day. I am the most powerful woman of my generation, influential woman of my generation. Nothing can stop me. Like I say that every single day to myself. And now I actually don't have to read it in my mirror. I just say it all the time. And it comes out of your mouth, anyway, so you just got to keep, what do you do to remind yourself when things get hard to keep moving forward?
You know what? That's really, really amazing what you do. Cause I do that too. I write it in lipstick.
Cool.
A little red lipstick, just to remind myself. And then created a list, a grateful list, in my kind of my note thing on my computer. And every single time I'm feeling down or just motivated or hurt by something, or life kind of kicks you, read that list and you can kind of snap back quickly.
Yeah, that's a really good point, because I have a daily gratitude journal, but I mean, honestly, it becomes kind of a chore to have to do it every single day. That's just not me. So that's a really good point, to do it kind of when you're feeling you're questioning yourself, you're feeling down, or
it'll lift back up right away. It really will, because you'll start to, whatever's destroying you in that moment, when you start looking at all the things that you're grateful for, you'll remind yourself this isn't really that bad. Right. So I'd recommend everybody to have a grateful list.
Ava, what would you say has been your biggest win?
My biggest win in life?
However you want to answer.
Okay, my biggest win in life is when I 3 years ago when I got the courage to pack all my fashion in the back of my car and come out to Vancouver, a big city. I grew up in a really small city, and I did really well in real estate there. But I always had like big dreams for myself. And even though I was accomplishing a lot of my dreams there, I always kind of felt a little bit empty. And my biggest accomplishment, I think, was when I packed my fashion, I sold my property. All my family's looking at me like I'm crazy. And I came to Vancouver, I didn't know anybody. And I drove into the city and just had big visions for myself. But the courage it took to come by myself without knowing anybody, my life changed by having that courage.
Really?
I felt like I could accomplish anything after I did that.
Can you share how your life changed?
Yeah, I of course, growing up in a small city, everybody knew, liked, and trusted me. Business was kind of easy to get done. I realized that, I loved working, and I had a great. And when I came to the big city, I got eaten up and spit out. I thought I was going to come here because I had success back home. I'm like, I got this. I'm going to come sell real estate in the big city, and I'm going to do great, and I'm going to do this and all these big ideas. No way. Life pushed me and kicked me, and lots of tears, calling my parents, them saying, come back home. We're talking 2 years, 2.5 years of pure, utter, like, just struggle. And I didn't give up. I didn't give up. It literally forced me to reinvent myself as a woman,
Yeah.
personally, and then on the business side. So I actually, it like forced me to become like this businesswoman. I didn't have a choice because I wasn't going back home. I'm like, I'm not giving up. I came here. I'm going to accomplish what I came here to do. And, at the end of the day, it built me as a woman. And that's kind of my story with that.
That's good. I think one of the things I've realized in life personally is kind of without change, there's no growth.
You
Uh,
got it.
and when things are really, really shitty and they're really, really hard, that's when you have immense amounts of growth, not just little bits. So bravo for you for taking the risk, because, I mean, it's obvious that you've built a different life or a new life, or maybe one more in alignment with what you wanted.
Yeah,
And you can do that. So
definitely.
that's awesome.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you. A message I think everybody should understand too is when you're like feeling those difficult moments, let it know that it's building you. You're being built in that moment. So just it's hard to do in the moment. It's hard to do. Everybody doesn't get it in the moment, but when things start slowly kind of working, they're like, oh yeah, okay, that's why the universe was kind of throwing stones at that point.
Yeah, exactly. Now, would you share with us a little bit about kind of like your mission, vision, values behind your company? What you said, helping people. What is your guys' goal? What is your vision? Yeah, a little bit about you.
Sure. So being a CEO of a private equity is very rare, especially here in Canada. I know we were kind of having this discussion before.
Yeah.
Woman empowerment is obviously huge. I'm really excited. I'm going to be an author in a couple of these books that I'm writing, just a segment in, and it's all about woman empowerment, rising tall and having a backbone and being a strong woman in these days, especially in this kind of place that we live in. But what we're doing here is, from the Canadian perspective, we're democratizing real estate investing. Okay, so what we're doing is pooling capital together to purchase institutional assets. I've never really heard of this business model until about 2 years ago. Because of course I've been in real estate here my whole life almost, and I've never realized this. One thing that's really huge, and when I say helping people, my parents are accountants. They taught me to be very good with my money. They taught me how to work hard, but they never taught me how to get my money working for me. So it was constantly always working really hard, making money, spending it, having to replenish, My parents also, along with Canadians across Canada, they're really happy with this 5 to 6% annual return. So when I say helping people, I mean helping people as passive investors. So this concept of pooling together capital as a passive investor and having somebody bring opportunity for you, where you can just write a check, sit back, relax, well, this person that they can trust is literally doing all the heavy lifting, That's pretty awesome. I feel like I'm helping people. I'm like, okay, let me give you cash flow from day one. Let me give you quarterly distributions, and let me get you, the cool number around the 15% forecasted annual returns. People are like, what are you talking about? That's really cool. So that's kind of me wanting to help people kind of democratize real estate investing, bring them opportunity that they maybe were so foreign to, but now they're learning about.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. So we're definitely in alignment in a lot of capacities there. So I'm working right now, and that actually reminds me real quick to write a note. So I'm working on a fund right now, and it's crowdfunding. So it'll be taking small amounts, which is not the usual in the industry. I can get this right. Normally it's 50K or so minimum investment. Is that typically what you see too?
That's really cool. We're doing 25K.
The crowdfunding offering would be bringing it down to $1,000.
Oh, you're going to be doing crowdfunding, bringing it down to 1,000. There
Yeah.
you go.
So
Okay.
the fund that I have, I'm learning too, the fund can have different offerings at different times. So the first offering it will have will be a crowdfunding offering just to test it out, because I've never done it before. I've always done Regulation D, and I'm like, grandma, invest, like she's like, okay. But the point is to catch all those women that, like, even I'm younger, than a lot of people in my industry. And so I have a lot of friends that are, friends from high school that they're like, we don't have we might have 25K in our IRA, maybe, but that's it, and that's everything. So I'm kind of like, well, why do you have to miss out, for another 10 plus years? There's no reason. Might as well at least get what the taste of mailbox money feels like, and be able to then, on referrals, they tell their friends like, oh my God, I'm not doing anything and I'm getting checks, so.
How
Yeah.
cool is that? Good
Yeah.
for you. Now, what's your, you have this statement, $1 billion. Tell me what you always say again for women.
So we're looking to create 1 billion She-Vestors by 2030. So that's not quite yet defined by the monetary amount, but for example, what's obviously going to help us get there faster in the real estate capacity is like crowdfunding. For example, the individuals who invest less than the industry average, they wouldn't have the ability to call me, email me, blow me up. It's the same thing as like Kickstarter or Indiegogo or whatever, where you go in the portal, you invest a couple $100, or $1,000, and then you just kind of leave it alone, and so that's a little bit different. So that will help us get to our numbers faster. But then also in the fund, when a guy invests, I even had a guy I said no to yesterday, and I was kind of like, this kind of feels good. Like, I hate to say it. I mean, he had a bunch of money, he had a 1031 that he didn't want to get capital gains on. It was like $1 million, and he was willing to invest. And but I just simply asked, so what we want to do is to financially empower women. So if you're investing in the fund or a deal or whatever, what I do require is that you pick a female to mentor. And so you just have to put their information on that form. So in our investor portal, and he just wasn't willing to do it. And that was the weirdest thing. I've never experienced that, actually.
do it.
I'm like, you don't have a mom or like a sister or like a niece or like a woman in your life at all that you want? Well, I have a wife. And I was like, well, how can we get her involved in getting her to know? She's not interested. And I'm like, well, can I ask her? Because what happens is like over 50% of Americans get divorced, and then she never learned about how to take care of herself. And so then she's in a situation where, anyway, I could go down the road forever, because I'm battling with attorneys right now, and I'm really mad, that I found out so many of my female friends have gotten taken advantage of in the divorce situation by attorneys, whether financially, physically, in so many different capacities. And so I hate the whole thing. Oh, I don't get to know anything, and then later on I get taken from, and it's dumb. So part of that is us not asking for it, and that's just women don't ask for it. But with women like you and I who are saying it's okay to ask for it, it's okay to know this exists, to make it more of a normal thing. But anyway, he wasn't willing to teach anyone what he was doing, and I was just kind of like, what? Well, we're not in alignment with our mission, so you can invest with one of the other white guys. Like, that's fine.
Oh, you know what? Good for you. You are empowering so many people, and that's the whole thing, right? Get women to be financially stable on their own and be in control of their finances to survive if things like that happen, which happens on a daily basis. Obviously, the struggle is real. Yeah.
All the time.
I really respect what you're doing. I really love
my biggest champion, and he's like, okay, listen to this. So I'm gonna get this wrong, but John's his father passed away. Mother didn't know how anything worked. His brothers, like basically every male in the family, down like 2 generations, either got sick, passed away, was incapacitated, some way that they couldn't take care of the finances, and that's kind of just how they set everything up. And so he was like looking at my mom being in this position where she had no clue what she was doing, and then got involved with like a life insurance person who took advantage of her, and like that's just not cool. So
No. So educate them that there's another way, and to get in control from an early stage. And it's never too late. I love what you're doing.
yeah, you too, Ava, seriously.
Thank you.
Now, if you could give any like gold nugget of advice to someone who is in the startup phase, for example, because mainly what this podcast is about is you can do it too. It's not easy, but here's some gold nugget advice. What would you say in that startup phase besides, don't give up on yourself? What else would you give our listeners?
I have the best advice for everybody that's going to be doing a startup. Get a mentor. Get a mentor from day one. Get somebody who's doing what you want to do, who kind of knows the ins and the outs, so that you don't have to create systems, recreate those systems, wonder why they're not working. Then you don't reinvent the wheel. There's going to be somebody out there who can sit you down and align yourself with what your vision is, but make sure you have an alignment before you begin. Because I know for me, I mean, I thought I was doing things right, but I really wasn't. And then I had to reinvent, and it slowed me down. So get somebody that's smart, who's already in the game, who can mentor you, whether they're free or whether they cost a little bit of money. Invest in it, 100% invest in it, because it'll save you like tens and tens of headaches and hours wasted.
Man, so I've had a couple of, actually, I went to a concert last night with
Did you?
My original mentor's mentor. He's back in town from the Philippines. So he moved back because they had the lockdown there. So him and his wife were like, forget it, we're moving back. So anyway, they're living in hotels right now. And so we all went to Steve Aoki last night. But
Oh, really?
I was just going to say, like, also part of mentorship too is finding someone who can see it through your lens. Like that's the other part of it. So in syndication business, finding a what would you call a sponsor, and because it's mostly a male business, so having someone vouch for me financially, is having somebody sign on a loan, having somebody do all those things for me. They all had to be men pretty much. I mean, there's like a handful of women, like 5 or 6, honestly, that are in this business, or that I guess about it, that they're in the business. There might be some like sleeper, really quiet, like billionairesses out there kind of thing. But for the most part, if you have a clue who's in the business, there's only a couple of them. And a few of them are in these like big guru groups. And so they don't really mentor other people. They're kind of being mentored or part of that group instead. And they have all these rules. And so I haven't had luck finding any female mentors. And I think that that's one of the biggest thing when you're finding a mentor is finding someone who can see it through your lens. Like when I'm interviewing a bunch of different women, it's important for them to talk about how they're able to balance having children and being a lender, how they're able to, like, what do you do with your schedule? And how do you have certain calls, or, how do you do networking, or how do you negotiate with your partner, like who gets what time and what works best for you in your schedule? And I mean, that's part of just a different lens that men don't ever have to think about, So finding a mentor that's a female, I haven't had any luck, so.
Well, it looks like you and I are going to have to rise above and be that person to come to for females that are looking to start their own thing.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the goal for sure. And so I guess a lot of the heartache and a lot of the really tough stuff that I've had to go through, I'm going kind of like your gratitude journal. I'm grateful that I went through it, honestly, because when I got out of it on the other end, I could have lost everything, and I really didn't, you know what I mean? But I've learned a smarter way to deal with a lot of stuff, and I have new resources now that like 90% of people don't have access to. And so now I feel like it's my duty to bring that to my ecosystem of women and say, look, like if someone's threatening you or someone's stealing from you or this is happening, or like I have an option for you, tell me about it. And I've got some people. So there may also be like a side security company that might be launched in tandem with like what's going on. It's more of a partnership, but like, I think that I'm just watching a bunch of women get taken advantage of. And like, honestly, if I didn't, talked to a bunch of other people and read a whole bunch of books recently and really like go inside and realize, you know what, you didn't lose a leg. You know what, like it's time to toughen your mind. Your mind is soft. You know, if I wouldn't have done that, I would have given up. I would have said, you know, maybe this is my sign that this isn't my business, or this isn't meant for me, just because it's tough. And I think like most people go through that and they give up, you know, and so I want to have resources where people don't have to get into that. They don't have to get squeezed out of the business because things seem so intimidating or they don't have the support that they need. So anyway, I'll stop talking.
That is so incredible. I love it. I love it. I love every word you're saying. I think that you're so powerful, and in that moment when people want to give up, they can contact you and just have that little push. That's what people need. Beautiful.
Yeah, and it's not even like it's kind of, and I've had a couple of women come out to me recently, and it's just about trust. You know what I mean? It's about having that tight circle of people that anyway, but you gotta have certain resources, and I've realized recently that, you know, for me, legal's not the answer. I mean, it's not. It's the system is interesting, and the legal system here is I can't speak for Canada, you know what I mean? But so anyway, there's alternative options, and justice is definitely like something that's always raging inside me, if you will, I guess. You know, I just, if someone tries to abuse me in any way, it makes me really angry, and I just go, nope, you know, like, so not everyone's like that. And I want people to feel like they can do that too, you know, not have to put up with abuse. I've had enough, you know, I don't want any more. So
I love it. Good for you. I can't wait. Like, I can't wait for us to like really get to know each other. Obviously, like you plant a seed in a relationship and you build it over the years. And then I just can't wait to collaborate with you and jump on board and like literally create this powerful kind of energy to spread out to all the other women out there to know that give us a call anytime.
Yeah, and see each other in person too. That'd be great.
I can't wait. You know what? You are like, I'm going to Mexico. I'm literally on lockdown over here. Like lockdown. We can't even go for dinner. If we were to even try to leave Canada, coming back is if there's thousands of dollars in fees just coming back, and then if we happen to possibly catch COVID, we have to go to like a concentration camp. It's bad.
My girlfriend that's from Canada said that last week. She said, I really want to go see my family, and I haven't. She's here for like a year and a half. She's like, I can't, because what would happen is I go there and I would have to just figure out a way to just say I would take 2 weeks off of anything, because if there's any even concern that you had contact with COVID, anything, she's like, they put you in some kind of they put you in a hazmat suit, put you in a bus, and then they bring you to like some kind of La Quinta type motel place, and you got to stay there for 2 weeks. And I don't think you're supposed to have visitors, you know? So she's like, what's the point, you know?
It's not worth it. You know what? My parents just live 13-hour drive away from me, and there's cops on the road. I can't even go see them like things are shutting down. Like I think we'll get fined. I'm not too sure how much it is, but if it's not essential, I can't even go drive to visit my family in the province next door. So I can't wait for things to come open up, because all of my friends that I have on the other side of the border, you're the first person I'm going to come visit.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to have you, and then we could maybe even do one of these again, but do it like live. Like, wouldn't that be cool?
Oh, that would be so much fun. That would be so much fun. I love it.
Ava, thank you so much for spending your time to get on here and talk to us a little bit about a female-owned capital company that was a startup and is now getting some traction. And like I said, I can't wait to have this interview again, possibly in the future, and then get updated on where everything's at. Because obviously partnerships form, and then now that the economy is repairing a little bit, so I can see you doing very well. If anyone wants to get in touch with you after the interview, how can they reach out to you?
Amazing. I'm pretty easy to find. I'm a huge LinkedIn person, as we were kind of discussing before. So Ava Benesocky, you can research me on LinkedIn, or ava@cpicapital.ca. My website is just cpicapital.ca. So that's where you can get a hold of me. I'm super easy to get a hold of, and I'm here to answer any questions, to help anybody I can. And I really appreciate you for having me on today.
Absolutely. Thank you, Ava. And everybody on Number One Leading Ladies, we will see you guys soon.